Welcome back to the Master Your Money podcast with me, Marini Jackson, your guide to mastering your money, building wealth, building credit, and creating financial freedom. Let's get started and dive into today's episode. So, today we are going to be talking about investing, what to know before you begin investing. And I'm not going to include any jargon in this, but if you're new to investing, I'm going to say this up front as a financial coach. You don't need to be rich, brilliant, or fearful or fearless, to start investing. You just need to have some clarity and consistency. And before you invest your first dollar, you want to make sure that there are things that you know. And I'm going to share actually 9 tips. So, no jargon, no hype. And the first is that investing is about growing your money. It's not about getting rich fast. Some people think they hear all about people who are like day trading and things of that nature, and that's advanced. I'm not here to teach you any of that, but investing works best over time. So it's a long game. So you're not going to invest today. I'm not saying that there aren't some outliers occasionally, but you're going to invest today and you're going to grow your money over time. It's not about having the quick wins. So if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. And the second is you want to start with money that you don't need soon. Now, one of my coaches, one thing she taught me is don't invest money that you need or you can't stand to lose. And basically, what she was saying is if you have money for your bills, your household, you're not investing that money. You're using your money for your household needs for that, but you have money for investing that you have strictly set aside and earmarked for investing. So before you start investing, some people they're itching and I want to start investing, but make sure you have an emergency fund and that you also have your basic bills covered. So if you see this great stock and it's $100, but you have $100 light bill, please pay your light bill. Don't invest that money. Pay your bills first. Pay your bills first. And this definitely, when you do that, it helps you not to panic and sell when life happens. I recall, oh goodness, I think it was last year or the year before when there was one day where stocks went down, and another person, I remember years ago, they're like, oh man, my screen looks red like the blood of Jesus. And yes, the person, they said, they actually, our brokerage sent out a message saying, hey, this is just a day, kind of basic, what I interpreted it as is, this is just a day. Please don't take out all your money and panic. Don't panic. And sure enough, that day, things went down. I saw my stocks went down, things of that nature. But over time, I saw it rise, like those dollar amounts rise back up. So yeah, you definitely don't want to panic. Again, investing is a long game, and you will see, a win if you don't pull your money out with every when everything goes up and down. So definitely don't do that. And I also want to let you know you don't need a lot of money to start investing. So that's tip number 3, excuse me. And you can start with small amounts of money and then just add more over time. And what matters most is more than the amount is that you start investing and staying small. My first intro and dipping my toe in investing was with an employer sponsored 401k plan. When I got hired, oh goodness, it's been some years ago. I'll tell you about my first job out of college. So I with that job, I don't think I got involved with or contributed, I should say, not got involved with putting money into the employer sponsored retirement plan. And I wish I had, because back then I was, a lot younger. That was my first job. I didn't have a lot of, overarching expenses. So I could have easily put a lot of money into that account and then also got the company match. And with the employer sponsored 401k, it was invested in like stocks and mutual funds, and I could have had a lot more now had I done that back then. But with the next full time job I got, I thoroughly read through the benefits package, thoroughly read through all of the incentives, and also sat through like the provider fidelity. They came to they had tons of workshops, and it was like workshops on retirement, workshops on how to strategies on using your employer sponsored 401k. If you were thinking of moving money, there was not an office for Fidelity in my town, but there was one about an hour away, and they like strongly encouraged us to make appointments and come see them if we had any questions. And I remember just putting in what I could. It was a small amount, and that worked for me because with also starting the job, I also had bought a home. So I wasn't quite sure what my expenses and everything would look like. So I wasn't telling myself, oh, I can put in $500, because I knew for myself that was unrealistic. So I started at a very small amount, whatever the dollar amount was or percentage was, to get the employer sponsored match. And we were always told that was free money the company gives you. So whatever that what dollar amount was or percentage was to match what the company gave is where I started. And over time, I invested a bit more. And one of my colleagues, he's like, well, he gave me a percentage. He's like, put in this percent. And when I did, it was, I think, maybe 10% or so. I noticed that, it really didn't have a huge impact. And it was worked to my benefit, because on with my taxes, it reduced my pre-tax income. So it worked for me to my advantage. So that was, long and short, my introduction into investing was the employer sponsored retirement plan. Now, some employers, they may not call it a 401k. It might be, if you're with if you're working with the government, like state, local, or federal government, they may have other names, but there may be some benefits with contributing to those plans as well. And that's a great way to start, and to start small. And another tip I want to give is that ups and downs are normal. As I mentioned, the day everything looked red like the blood of Jesus, you'll see like the losses are reds and the gains are green. And some days you're going to see lots of green, some days you're going to see lots of red. And it's definitely not a time to panic. So your investments will go up, but they go down as well, as I said. But that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. That it just depends on the market. Like during the pandemic, certain stocks went up and others went down. And once we recovered from the pandemic, some stocks came back up that may have been down. So it's always going to fluctuate. So remember, we're in the long game. And as a long term investor, you're going to expect it. And it's going to, be up some days, down some days, but keep going. That doesn't mean pull all of your money out and stick it under a mattress. Keep going. And time, and I hear this a lot. And anytime I've sat through any workshops with any of the financial partners that partner with the employers that I've had, they always say time matters than timing in the market. So when I got my first job out of college in my 20s, as I said, if I would have, contributed to that 401k, then I would have had, several years of that money growing. But it wasn't until, a few years later when I got, another full-time job that I, took advantage. And so now that, from day one I took advantage, I have, a lot of time that some of my finances have been in the market. And when you're looking at time frames or the horizons, if you're someone who's investing maybe in your 20s versus someone who's in their late 40s, early 50s, you have to look at the time horizon between when you plan to retire. If you're in your 20s and you plan to retire at 65, then you have over 40 years to contribute and for that money to grow. But if you're someone who is, for instance, 50 or above, you may only have, a decade or slightly more than that before you leave the workforce. So waiting for the perfect moment is what usually leads people to waiting forever. They're like, well, I'm waiting for the perfect moment. Not sure if any of you have played Double Dutch. My mom is from New York, and that is something we always played. And she even got out and jumped Double Dutch with us. But with Double Dutch, you're waiting for that perfect moment to jump in between the ropes and you start jumping. And if you treat the stock market or investing like that double dutch game, you're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And sometimes you could just be standing there and not jump in. But the important things is to jump in. And as I said, you want to start earlier, even if you have less money, because that often works with start better and you have more potential for that compound interest to grow than if you're someone who's starting a bit later. So if you're starting later, don't despair. You can still take advantage of investing, and it can definitely work for you as well. So you want to keep it simple at the beginning. You don't need to know everything to get started with investing. So you want to start with a simple and broad approach rather than chasing trends and hot ideas. And I will say it's very tempting because there's always, always, always someone online. There's an article, there's a something on social media, a video on social media. It's like, these are the hot stocks. Invest in this, invest in that. And if you listen to all of these different voices, then you're going to become overwhelmed. But start small, start simple. One thing I can definitely say that my mentor taught me is to use products that you know. Your phone, for instance, if you're an Android user, if your phone is by Samsung, for instance, buy Samsung stock. If you're an iPhone user, iPhone's an Apple product, buy Apple. You are, actively using, you are now becoming an investor. You're not just being a consumer of the product, but you're also an investor in that company, and you can earn dividends from your stock. Dividends is basically like money that you get from the profits from however well that business is doing. So just look at it that way. You can start simple investing in products that you know and that you use. Like I said, I started with the employer sponsored 401k, and I also have an individual brokerage account that I use to purchase stocks with companies that I use and know. So simple is sustainable, but when you again start trying to follow all of these trends and you're seeing all these videos, that can get complicated and overwhelming. Now, your emotions can cost you money. If you're someone, as I mentioned earlier, you see that stock go down, you see that those dollars go down, and it looks red, you're like, oh, it's red, it's in the negative. I lost $10 today. Tomorrow might be a better day. You may gain $15. So net, you come out in the green. So you don't want your emotions to get involved and cost you money. So fear and excitement are not good money guides. You don't want to get super excited when the stocks are up and then like get really fearful and I'm going to sell everything if the stocks are down. Don't become that person. So create a plan and stick to it. What I do is I essentially have an account that I have drafted out of my checking account, and I have a separate account that money goes into, and the funds from that account are earmarked for investing. So on a certain day every month, I have a dollar amount set that goes to, and it's transferred from the account that I have earmarked as savings for investing, and it gets deposited into my brokerage account. Now, you want to be consistent when that money goes into that brokerage account, and make sure you're allocating those funds to invest to stocks, to investments that you're making. So this leads me to my next point. Investing becomes easy when it's automatic. So as I mentioned, automatic contributions, it automatically goes to that account on a certain day every month, and that's a habit. So I don't have to debate or wonder. I just make sure that money's in that account, and then on that draft date, it goes to the brokerage account, and then I need to go to the brokerage account and let me decide what stocks I'm going to buy today, and then it's simple, and then you watch it grow. And investing, you want this to be part of a bigger money picture. Now, a few episodes ago, I did talk about um, multiple streams of income, just some simple things to do to get started with earning additional income, and that you can earmark. You can earmark it for savings, you can earmark it for investing, things of that nature. So I encourage you, definitely go check that one out. So your money picture, it needs to include things like your budgeting, your savings, managing your debt, excuse me, and having your clear financial goals. And investing alone isn't going to build wealth for you, but having good habits definitely will. So, again, you don't have to know everything to get started with investing. Start small, start where you are, and even if you say this $20 instead of me going out to eat, I'm going to invest. Instead of going to Starbucks, let me invest. Let me check out how much stock of Starbucks I can buy for $20 or however much you decide. Um, so that's definitely a good strategy. It's part of your investing strategy and part of your financial strategy. But you need to know enough so you can start wisely. So as I said, if you want to dip your toe in, and if you're not already taking advantage of your employer's retirement plan, that's one way you can get started with investing. Another is opening up a individual account, brokerage account. There are places like Charles Schwab, E-Trade, Fidelity. Those are three that I know off the top of my head where you can begin investing. You can open up an account, you know, download their app, open up an account, and get started really, really quickly. But it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect at investing, but you definitely want to make sure that you have discipline, you're having patience, and know that it's going to take time. Now, I'm not guaranteeing you that as soon as you put your money into the stock market that it's gonna, you're gonna have tons of money. Not guaranteeing that. It's going to take time, but you can definitely do it. It's not as hard as you think it is, but again, start small, start where you are, and you will definitely over time see progress and see growth in your finances. So, as always, I wanted to thank you for tuning in to the Mastery Money podcast. And if today's episode has helped you, be sure to like and to also subscribe to this podcast so that you never miss an episode. And also make sure that you let me know your thoughts in the comments. Share a review, and also share this podcast with your family and your friends who are ready to get started on their financial journey. And if you're ready to take the next step, you can also go to my website, www.virtuefinancialsolutions.org, and there you can learn more about my workshops, my coaching programs, and the resources that I have that can help you with managing your finances and growing on your financial journey. So until next time, remember, you don't just manage your money, you master it. Thank you.